So you got to keep those feelings inside of you, okay? Well, what I did to release those feelings was I wrote.
David Allan Coe.
So you keep those emotions locked deep inside you, right, and you wonder what to do with them. For David Allan Coe, the way out was music. He wasn't just another country singer. He became a living symbol of the outlaw movement, a man whose life felt like a wild novel filled with struggle, defiance, and hard-earned triumph. From growing up in reform schools and spending years behind locked doors to carving out his own place in country music, Coe never followed the rules. He rewrote them. His storytelling was raw, honest, and unapologetic, standing in sharp contrast to the polished Nashville sound. Some people saw him as a rebel, others as a provocateur, but one thing was always clear. David Allan Coe lived and breathed the outlaw spirit, and this is the untamed journey of a man who refused to be anything but himself. Before he became one of the most infamous figures in country music, David Allan Coe was just a kid from Akron, Ohio, born on September 6, 1939. His childhood was anything but ordinary. From a young age, he was drawn to music, especially the smooth, emotional voice of Johnny Ace. That sound sparked something inside him, a connection to music that stayed with him through the darkest moments of his life. Long before he ever stood on a stage, though, Coe was already on a path filled with trouble and rebellion. By the age of 9, he found himself sent to a reform school, a place meant to straighten kids out, but for him, it only strengthened his defiant nature. That pattern continued as he moved through juvenile facilities and eventually into high-security institutions. While the system labeled him a problem, Coe saw himself as someone who refused to be controlled. During those years, music became his escape. While others stayed quiet, Coe sang, wrote, and dreamed of something bigger. His voice echoed through those walls, carrying stories shaped by hardship and survival. It was during this time that fate placed someone important in his path. Blues legend Screamin' Jay Hawkins recognized something special in him and encouraged him to turn his life experiences into songs. Coe took that advice seriously. He didn't just write lyrics. He poured his life into them. Every struggle, every mistake, every fight to keep going became part of his music. His voice wasn't just about melody. It was about truth. When Coe was released in 1967, he wasn't simply starting over. He had a purpose. With almost nothing to his name, he headed straight for Nashville. He had no money, no connections, and no safety net, but he had stories no one else could tell. He lived out of his car, played on street corners, and did whatever it took to be heard. Most people had no idea that the man sleeping in a hearse near the Ryman Auditorium was about to challenge the entire country music scene. Slowly, people began to notice. One of them was record producer Shelby Singleton, who recognized Coe's raw talent and fearless honesty. In 1970, Coe released his first album, a dark and intense project that spoke openly about isolation, regret, and life behind bars. It wasn't polished, and it wasn't radio-friendly, but it was real, and it made people listen. Coe knew that to survive, he had to expand beyond his own story. So he started writing constantly, creating songs filled with heartbreak, longing, and rebellion. That dedication paid off when one of his songs was recorded by Tanya Tucker in 1973. The song became a massive hit, launching her career and placing Coe firmly on the map as one of Nashville's most powerful songwriters. For the first time, he wasn't just getting by. He was thriving. Still, writing for others wasn't enough. He wanted his own voice heard. In 1975, he signed with Columbia Records and released an album that showed he wasn't just a writer but a performer with something to say. Around that time, he recorded a song that playfully poked fun at country music traditions, and fans loved it. The track climbed the charts, and suddenly, David Allan Coe was a star. He became part of the rising outlaw country movement, standing alongside artists who rejected clean-cut images in favor of something more honest and rough around the edges. Coe took that idea even further by creating a larger-than-life persona, complete with flashy outfits and a masked stage presence. It wasn't just for show. It was a statement. After years of being ignored and underestimated, he made sure no one could overlook him again. As the years went on, Coe doubled down on his independence. He released music that spoke directly to outsiders, people who felt caught between worlds and tired of being boxed in. Controversy followed him everywhere. Some of his work pushed boundaries that made the industry uncomfortable, and Nashville kept its distance. Coe didn't back down. He believed music was about telling the truth, even when it made people uneasy. His fans weren't looking for polished hits. They wanted honesty, and that's what he gave them. Despite industry resistance, his songwriting continued to shine. In 1977, he wrote a working-class anthem that became a #1 hit when another artist recorded it. Even without being in the spotlight, Coe's words echoed across job sites, bars, and everyday life. In the early 1980s, he released some of his most memorable songs, including a haunting story that felt like a journey through country music's past and a deeply emotional ballad filled with regret and reflection. These songs proved that beneath the outlaw image was a powerful storyteller capable of real vulnerability. Behind the scenes, though, his personal life was unraveling. Financial struggles mounted, and in the mid-1980s, he lost the rights to much of his earlier work during bankruptcy proceedings. Songs that had defined his career were suddenly no longer his. Without that income, Coe did what he had always done. He kept moving. Touring became his lifeline. Night after night, city after city, he stayed on the road, performing for the fans who never left him. Even as the industry changed, Coe refused to fade away. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, he surprised everyone by collaborating across genres, blending country with heavier sounds and proving once again that he refused to fit into a single box. He also worked with artists from a younger generation, showing a softer, more reflective side of his songwriting that resonated deeply with listeners. As his health declined, his presence remained strong. He continued performing in small venues, biker gatherings, and honky-tonks, connecting directly with fans who saw him as more than a musician. He was a symbol of independence. Time may have slowed his body, but his spirit never weakened. David Allan Coe never chased mainstream approval. He didn't try to fit a mold or apologize for who he was. That refusal to conform is exactly what made him unforgettable. His legacy isn't just about hits or records. It's about doors he kicked open and the artists he inspired to follow their own path. He proved that country music could be raw, fearless, and real. Even today, his music still speaks to those who don't quite fit in, those who walk their own road. Whether it's a working-class anthem or a deeply personal ballad, his songs continue to resonate with people searching for honesty in a manufactured world. David Allan Coe didn't need universal approval. He built his own legend, wrote his own rules, and left behind a body of work that refuses to be forgotten. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think about David Allan Coe's influence on country music? Was he an outlaw genius, or did he push boundaries too far? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this. Until next time, keep the outlaw spirit alive. As the years rolled forward, David Allan Coe's story didn't soften or slow down, it deepened. While many artists from the outlaw era began easing into comfortable legacy roles, Coe remained restless. He never viewed music as something frozen in time or tied to nostalgia. For him, it was a living thing, shaped by whatever road he happened to be walking at that moment. Even when mainstream attention drifted elsewhere, he kept creating, recording, and performing for the people who still showed up, and they always did. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, country music itself was changing. The sound was becoming cleaner, more commercial, more carefully managed. Image mattered more than truth, and formulas mattered more than stories. Coe stood in sharp contrast to that shift. He wasn't interested in polishing his edges or softening his message. If anything, the distance between him and the industry only strengthened his resolve. He leaned into independence, releasing projects through smaller outlets and maintaining a direct connection with his audience. Those fans weren't casual listeners. They were people who felt overlooked, misunderstood, or pushed aside by a world that rewarded conformity. They saw themselves in Coe because he had lived the kind of life that couldn't be manufactured. When he sang about regret, loss, pride, or survival, it came from experience, not imagination. That authenticity mattered more than chart positions. Touring remained central to his life. Long drives, late nights, and unpredictable crowds became routine. Some shows were packed and electric, others small and intimate, but Coe treated them all the same. He believed that if someone paid to hear him sing, they deserved everything he had. On stage, he didn't just perform songs. He told stories, joked with the crowd, and reflected on his life with a mix of humor and hard-earned wisdom. Every performance felt personal. Behind the scenes, his life remained complicated. Financial pressure never fully disappeared, and health issues began to surface as the years went on. Still, slowing down was never part of his plan. Music wasn't just a career. It was survival. As long as he could stand and sing, he felt he still had purpose. In the 1990s, a new generation of artists began discovering Coe not through radio, but through word of mouth, bootlegs, and late-night listening sessions. To them, he wasn't a relic. He was a blueprint. Someone who proved that you didn't need approval to make an impact. You just needed honesty and nerve. His influence quietly spread beyond country into rock and heavier genres, where musicians admired his refusal to compromise. That cross-genre respect led to one of the most surprising chapters of his career. When Coe connected with artists outside traditional country circles, it wasn't a gimmick. It was a natural extension of who he had always been. He believed music didn't belong inside fences. If it came from a real place, it was valid. That mindset resulted in collaborations that caught people off guard and reminded everyone that Coe was still capable of reinvention. Even as his body showed signs of wear, his mind remained sharp. Interviews from this period reveal a man who was reflective but not regretful. He acknowledged mistakes, talked openly about lost opportunities, and accepted the consequences of his choices, but he never wished for a different life. To him, every hardship had fed the songs. Without them, the music wouldn't exist. As the 2000s approached, Coe's presence became more symbolic than commercial. He wasn't chasing trends or fighting for relevance. He had already secured something more valuable, authenticity that couldn't be erased. Younger fans discovered him alongside older ones, bridging generations through shared emotion rather than shared era. When he appeared alongside other legendary figures in major music projects during this time, it felt like quiet recognition. Not validation from the industry, but acknowledgement from peers who understood what it meant to stay true in a business built on compromise. Coe didn't need trophies or ceremonies. His survival alone was proof of his impact. Despite ongoing health challenges, he continued to perform whenever possible. Smaller stages replaced big arenas, but the connection remained just as powerful. In some ways, it was even stronger. These shows weren't about spectacle. They were about shared understanding. Fans weren't there to see a polished star. They were there to hear a man tell the truth the only way he knew how. As time passed, his voice changed, weathered by decades of living, but that only added weight to the words. Songs about regret sounded deeper. Songs about pride felt earned. Every note carried the weight of experience. For those listening closely, it felt like sitting across from someone who had seen it all and survived. David Allan Coe had become something rare in music. Not a brand. Not a product. A storyteller whose life and art were inseparable. He stood as proof that success didn't always mean acceptance, and influence didn't always mean fame. Sometimes it meant endurance. And as the road stretched on, one thing became clear. Coe wasn't interested in how history would judge him. He had never lived for approval, and he wasn't about to start now. He had said what he needed to say, sung what he needed to sing, and whatever time he had left would be spent the same way he had always lived, on his own terms.